Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to Tanie Codes. Today we're going to be talking about while loops. So we're going to be continuing from where we left off. So this is while loops part 3. So the reason I'm doing part 3 is because I feel like it's gonna take a lot more tutorials and videos for you guys to understand what are while loops, and I feel like I should do more videos about it, and I'm gonna try and make as many videos as I can on the topic. So like I said, today we're going to talk about while loops, but before I start, please subscribe to my channel and also like this video, comment in the comment section guys. I love hearing how you understanding whatever I'm teaching, and also just to hear if you like the videos and where I need to improve. I want to learn, I want to get to know what you guys like and what you guys prefer I teach, and which method do you understand in. At the end of the day, I want you guys to understand what I'm teaching and keep watching my videos. So please subscribe, like the videos, comment, share the videos, and let's get right into it. So like I said, for the third time, we'll be talking about while loops. We'll be continuing from where we left off. So if you haven't heard me talking about while loops and it's the first time seeing me doing a tutorial or doing a tutorial on while loops, please go back to my videos and watch the first video which I talk about while loops, the second one, and then you can come back to this one. And let's get started. So today I picked out a really fun program to do, so a really fun tutorial to do. So what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be counting the number of digits that are in a digit. Okay, yeah, we're going to be counting how many numbers are there in a number. For example, if you have like 5,000, then you're going to count how many digits are there in 5,000, which are like 5 numbers. So 5 0 0 0. So it's actually 4 numbers. Sorry guys. So it's actually 4 numbers. So that's what our tutorial is going to be about today. So I found this tutorial is going to be a perfect way to make you understand guys what are while loops and how we can use. So it's a very simple tutorial and easy to understand, and I hope you're going to understand. So like I said, we're going to be counting how many digits are there in a number. So to do that, firstly, foremost, we need to declare a variable int, and it's gonna be number. And then secondly, we're going to prompt the user to enter the number. So we're gonna say cout, please enter a number. Yeah, and then we're gonna store the number so we are able to use it later. In number. Okay, that's about it. So we're done with our first part of the program. So now we have to type in the program that's going to actually count the digits of a number. So firstly, what we're going to do is we're going to assume that maybe some users might want to, I don't know why they want to do that, but they might want to enter a 0. So we're going to try and solve that problem first. So we're going to say if, we're going to write our condition here. So we're going to say if number is equal to 0, cout, you have entered. Is this how we write enter? Okay, it's entered. I hope you have entered. You have entered 0. So this is how it's going to be, and we're gonna put in our end line. Yeah, so this is going to cover if the user decides to enter a 0 in our program. So it's going to say, so it's going to check the number, and it's going to say if the number is equal to 0, then it's going to console out you have entered 0. And then else, here's now where we write if it's not a 0, then which means it's other numbers besides 0. So also we need to cover the fact that the user might want to enter negative numbers. So with that say, entering negative numbers, if you enter negative numbers, it's going to cause a bit of a bug into our program. So we need to kind of convert that negative number into a positive number. So now we're going to try and cover that part. If the user tries to enter a negative number, we need to try and convert that number into a positive number. So for example, if they enter negative 441, we want to try and make it a positive 441 so that the outcome becomes 3. So we're going to say else if the number, so the number that the user has entered is less than 0, which means it's a negative number. What we want to do is we want to convert that number, that negative number, into a positive number. And one way I've learned from school to convert a positive number into a negative number, you can multiply that number with a -1. So multiplying that number with a -1, which means it won't affect the number itself, because when you multiply a number by 1, it stays the very same number, but what is going to affect is the sign before the number. So we learned that in school, that if you multiply a negative by a negative, you get a positive number. So if you're going to multiply a negative number by a +1, it's going to affect the sign, which is going to turn it into positive, but the number is going to stay the same. So the number of the user is going to stay the same, only the sign will change, so that we're able to convert that number into a positive, and our program can run and can tell the user how many digits are there in their specific number. So we're gonna try and do that now. So we're gonna say number, and we're gonna say it's going to equal to -1 times the number that they have entered. So like I said before, we're not changing anything from the user's point. We're just trying to convert that number into a positive number so that our program doesn't read out the wrong message to the user. So what this is going to do is going to take that very same number that the users entered and multiply it by -1, then store that number into our number variable. So instead of our number containing the original number, the original negative number that the user entered, now it's going to contain the positive number that we have transformed. So now we've tackled, I think, the most two basic things that our user might want to enter. So we've said enter a number, and then we've dealt if the user decides to enter a 0, which is still a number, we don't blame them. And then also if they've tried to enter a negative number, which are also numbers, so they're allowed to do that. Our job is to try and convert it, which what we have done to try and help the computer. So later on the stage, I'm going to remove this block of code so that you can see what actually happens if we don't convert the number into a positive number. So let's continue. Now we're trying to tackle how to actually count how many digits are there in a number. So initially I had explained what a while loop is, and we said it's a block of code that we want to run whilst a certain condition is true. So now we want to say we want our code to run as long as our number is positive. So as long as our number is positive. So if it's not positive, then we're going to try and make it positive, and if it's a 0, then we're going to say you've entered a 0. But if it's not positive, if it's not negative and it's not 0, then the program can run. So that's where we use our while loop. And then we need a variable that's going to try and count how many times the code has run. So if the code ran 5 times and it stops, know that we had a 5 number digit. So our code is going to run as long as the number is -0. So this might not make sense now, but it's going to make sense in a few minutes now. So let me try and type what I'm just saying. So as I said, we need something like a counter variable. So that counter variable is going to count how many times did the loop iterate. So how many times did the loop run? So we're going to say, we're going to first declare a variable which is going to count how many times the program has iterated. So we're gonna say counter. So now we're going to start with our actual program, with our actual while loop. So we're going to say while. I've already dealt with the syntax for while loop, so if you haven't seen that, please go back to my first video where I talk about while loops, where I actually explain the syntax of while loop. So it's going to say while, and when I put in our open and close brackets, and it's like when I put in our condition. So like I said before, our code is going to run whilst the number is a positive number. So we're going to say while number is greater than 0. So our loop is going to run while the number that the user has entered is greater than 0. So if it's not greater than 0, it's 1. We've already covered that. We're going to say you've entered 0. If it's a negative number, we're going to convert it into a positive number, and then for it to be able to run. In order to count how many digits are there, we're gonna try and erase numbers as we go. So as the loop runs, we're gonna try and erase one number at a time. So if we have, like, for example, if we have 4, 5, 4, 3, 5. So if you have 4, 3, 5, you're gonna try and erase firstly it's gonna be 3, and then we're gonna come and erase the 5, and it's gonna be 43. And then we're gonna erase the 3, and it's gonna be 4, and then we're gonna erase the 4, then we have nothing. Then our while loop, or our loop, is going to break. So we need to try and figure out a way that's going to erase the last number of the digits every time the loop runs, so that we know that if the loop ran 3 times, which means it had to delete 3 numbers, which means the number had 3 digits. I hope this makes sense. So to do that, we're going to divide the number in 10 every time the loop runs. So every time the loop runs, we're going to divide that number by 10. So if we have 453 and we divide that 453 by 10, we're gonna be left with 4545.3. So remember when I was talking about numbers in I think it's my 3rd video, I talked about numbers, and I also talked about floating points, and I said if we're using integers as our data type, then the computer is not going to read the decimal of the number. So 5.3, and then the computer is going to read it as 45 only, and it's going to ignore this 3. So which means if it's 453 divide by 10 and the answer is 45.3, so the computer is going to read this as 45 only and ignore the 3, because we used integers as our data type. So now we're left with 45, and then the computer is going to run again the program. So it's going to run again the program, and now we're left with 45. It's going to say 45 divide by 10, and then when we do that, we're going to be left with 4.5, and then again the computer is going to ignore this 5, so it's going to read as a 4 only, because our data type is integer, not float, and integer is whole numbers, and then float is raw numbers. And then so it's going to ignore this 5, and then we're going to be left with 4 only, and it's going to run again because we said it's a while loop. So as long as the number is greater than 0, it's going to iterate. So because 4 is greater than 0, it's going to iterate one more time. So now we're going to say 4 divide by 10, and 4 divided by 10 is equals to 0.5. So now because this is an integer, the computer is going to ignore this 0, this 4, this 5, and it's going to remove it, and now we're left with 0. So now the computer is going to stop running the program, so the loop is going to break, because now 0, which is the number that's left, it's not greater than 0. So this number is not greater than 0, so our while loop is going to break. Now it's going to read, okay, the computer iterated this once, twice, thrice. So So it iterated this 3 times, which means we had 3-digit numbers. So which means it's going to console to the user, your number had 3 digits. So this is what we're going to try and put into coding. So like I said, we're going to say, while number is greater than 0, take that number, so take that number, divide it by 10. Then when you're done dividing by 10, take our counter variable, which is counting how many times the loop has iterated, increase it by 1. So this is called increment. So this is one of our operators. I've talked about operators, so if you haven't heard me or you don't know what this is, you can go back to my videos where I talk about operators in C++, and then you can get what this increment does. So this increment in basic form, it increases the number in 1. So if our counter variable, if we had initially said our counter variable is equal to 5, then when it gets here, it was going to say 5 plus 1, and now our counter variable is 6. So because we didn't initially give a variable to our, we didn't initially give a value to our counter, it's going to just be 0, and then we're going to say counter and then increment. So it's going to increment our counter plus 1, and then not really done, but yeah, we're there. So let me try and explain this code one more time, and explain this part rather one more time. So we had previously dealt with if the number is 0, we dealt if the number is a negative number, we convert it into a positive number, and now we started with our while loop, and we said while number, so while the number of the user, the number that the user entered is greater than 0, run this code. So it's going to take that number, this number, divide by 10, and then divide by 10, and then come here, and then it's going to say counter, and our counter is going to increment. So now our counter is going to be 1, because counter plus 1 is going to be 1. Now our counter value or our counter variable holds a 1 sharp, and it's going to go back here, and then it's going to say if the number that is left is greater than 0, run this again. So it's going to come here and say that number, divide by 10, and then it's going to increment this. So it's going to say counter plus 1. Now because our counter variable was 1, now 1, we add another 1, it's 2 sharp, and it goes again here, and if the number that's left again it's still greater than 0, it's going to say that number, divide by 10, and after that it's going to say counter plus 3. Now our plus 1, now our counter value holds number 3, and then it's going to go back again, and it checks if the number is still greater than 0, it's going to say that number, divide by 10, and then after dividing by 10, increase the counter value. So it's going to say counter plus 1. Now our counter value is going to hold a 4, and it's going to go back again, and if our number that's left is less than 0, or if it's greater than 0, it's going to continue, but if it's less than 0, then it's going to break, because now it cannot run, because the value, or because now the condition is false, it is not greater than 0, and then our while loop is going to break, and then we're done. So now we need to give out the message to the user. So we're gonna say cout, is it the cout? Yes, cout. I don't know why this keeps happening. Cout, your number has counter digits. I'm gonna end line, and then we're done. So now after the program has stopped, after the loop has been broken, it's going to display this to the user. Your number has, it's going to take whatever the counter had stopped with. So if the counter had stopped on 5, then it's going to reach out to 5, which means the number had 5 digits, because the loop ran 5 times until the number was less than 0. So it's going to output whatever the counter variable was holding. So the counter variable, if it was holding a 3, that's going to display your number has 3 digits. If the counter variable was holding a 10, it's going to display your number has 10 digits. So I think we're pretty much done with our code. Let's run our code and see if it works. It works. It says please enter a number. I'm gonna enter 453. It says your number is a 3 digit. Your number has 3 digits. So which means our code is working really fine so far, because it says please enter a number. We entered 453, which is 3 digits, and it says your number has 3 digits. And let's try if we put in negative 453. So let's say negative 453. It still says your number has 3 digits because it converted that positive into a negative number. And then let's try and see if we've entered if we enter a 0, says 0, it says you've entered 0. So our code is working good. Our code is working good. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching this video, and if you have seen value in this video, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, comment in the comment section, and also share this video to anyone who you think might be interested in learning C++. Thank you for watching.